Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fuel for Success. This is episode 243 on this beautiful Thursday. And just like every Thursday, we're going to be bringing you business development, entrepreneurship, and related topics. One topic that we're, of course, excited about being startup business owners and entrepreneurs ourselves. It's a passionate topic for us. And so good morning to my co-host and good friend and business partner, the one and only Matt Maddox. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing well. I was just noticing the balance of your life here. We got candles, guitar, cowboy hat, gun. They progressively get, just tougher and tougher right there. Just noticing a little detail in the background, my friend. Appreciate the cowboy hat. I'm sure every once in a while you got to throw that thing on when you're working just to, like we always say, cowboy up, man. It's probably the worst thing a female could ever say to you is cowboy up, If you're a male and you ever hear that from your lady, you're in trouble.
You've done it wrong. Yeah.
You've done it wrong.
Exactly.
Let's just say that. Mike, this is one of our favorite shows. You and I love to talk about business. You and I could talk about business 24/7. We have fun with it. This is not only business, but it's also entrepreneurship. We do this show for all inspiring entrepreneurs out there and business owners and managers and people that are in business, people that are starting businesses, people that are, even if you're an employee, this is a good show for you because you're going to pick up on some things that's going to make you better. And Mike, we've actually had people that have watched this show that actually have gone out and started businesses as a result of the advice and the encouragement. So that's why we do this, man. But it is good. This is our first week back for Fuel for Success, and it's been good to be back, man. What have you enjoyed most about being back, man?
Well, a couple of things. One is mostly, I've enjoyed the interaction with the folks that join us here every morning, and I've missed them. It's good to see so many of our good friends and people that we've contacted. Many of them we've met, in real life as well. Either at Mission 25s or various other locations, we've met them, and so it's so good to see them and interact and really hear a little bit about, because people chat in the chat box over there. Good morning, Liliana, and from Indiana, and so it's
Indiana.
Yeah, and so
good people, man.
Absolutely, and it's so good to to reconnect, I guess. So that's pretty much been my favorite part. Of course, it's always good to spend time with my friend Matt.
I feel the same way about both. If you were to ask me, my answer would be exactly the same. I love spending time hanging out with you and chatting. I learn things. I love our audience. I don't want to say audience. I love the people that are here with us that, they're like family and friends to us. And then even those that join new, Mike, there'll be people we'll probably never meet that watch our show almost every day.
True.
I met somebody whose, high school daughter who plays softball watches every day and sometimes has went and had her team watch one of our shows. So, you never know. We've had over 300 and I believe it's 50,000 views so far in all of our 243 talk shows. And man, we're honored that one person would want to watch, man. And we know not everybody can watch live, so many times people watch later on in the evening while they're out walking or doing dishes or whatever. We're cool with that. We're cool. We're grateful for our live viewers, but we're as grateful for those that watch later on the archives, because literally some people can't watch now because they're at work and whatever. So looking forward to it, man.
That's right. And of course, it is 6:30 for our West Coast friends. So, they may be in the middle of doing a juice right now. So join us after that. Hey, so awesome stuff. We've got questions lined up for today, but I want to remind everybody that you can always ask questions live during the show if you're watching. Click over there on the chat box, just chat in a question. We'll keep an eye on that and try to get to those, or you can click down below, type in a question. If it's a question we can't get to today, we'll get to it later. And of course, you can always email me at mike@mattmaddox.com. And any question that you have, we'll get it on a future show. Maybe you're watching later on the archive. Or if you're watching this even at 3 o'clock in the morning and a question hits you and you're like, oh, I got to ask this question. You know what? Pick up your phone and text 727-341-5599 and get that question, and we'll be happy to get to it anytime, day or night, 24/7. You can text that. Don't worry. It's not going to wake me up. I'm probably still up cranking on work anyways at 3 in the morning, so don't worry about it. Just text it in, 727-341-5599. That's 5599, Matt. But we'll.
Oh, it's 5599. Well, you'd think I would know the.
I think you typoed.
Anyway, so yeah, absolutely text that number, and Mike's right, 24/7, and we'll do our best to get to the. We'll do our best to get to the questions as they come in.
Awesome. Hey, I'm going to get to Liliana's question in just a little bit because that's a great question and it relates to some business principles. I want to start with a question about partnership though that we've gotten in, and of course you and I are on we're partners in several different ventures and we work together, we flow well together. And partnership is can be an extremely tricky place in any business. But can you tell me, first of all, what are the values that you see in having a business partner?
Mike, the values in having a business partner is that it's a biblical principle. And I believe if a person wants to be successful in business, it should try to find as many biblical principles as possible and follow them, because that's going to guarantee you success and prosperity. I literally believe, Mike, that there's a lot of amazing, unbelievable, just powerful business principles in the Bible. To me, partnership is one. For example, the Bible literally says two are better than one. Because if one can put 1,000 to flight, two can put 10,000 to flight. I mean, so right off the top of my head, I can tell you real quick the value of having a partner is sometimes in business it's lonely, it's exhausting. You work long hours without pay when you're starting a business. There's a lot of grind, a lot of hustle, a lot of sweat, and a lot of setbacks. And when you have a partner, you have somebody that's in it with you. There's just some kind of strength and encouragement that comes in the building of business process when you're doing it with a partner. That's a value that I see. And another value is the strength and weakness factor, which I think why Mike and I have had such an unbelievable partnership is because we literally have just, turned each other loose in the areas of our strengths and not tried to, Mike hadn't tried to become me, I haven't tried to become him, and we both recognize each other's weaknesses, but most of our strengths cover those weaknesses. To me, that's, if a man or a woman could have a partner in business, they should. For that reason, then you double the workload. So now instead of, now you've gone from one person working 60 hours, you got your partner working 60, 80 hours. Now you're up to double the amount of hours in working on your business. And then you can divide the task. When you're starting a business, there's so many things that you need to do. Can't tell you the amount of times Mike and I have been on the phone and said, okay, Mike, what do you want me to focus on? And he'll say, hey, I need you to do these 3 things. And he might only be doing one thing, but in a business partnership, in a real partnership, you never worry about that kind of stuff. Never once have I been upset if Mike has said, hey, man, I need you to do this. That's how partnership works. It's not a pride thing. It's not a ego thing. It's just one of those things where, that's partnership. There's times I need Mike to do something. There's times I'll need him to do something and there won't be much for me to do. So while he's doing it, I might be on the beach, not always, but I'm just saying there'll be times when I'll say, hey, Mike, I'll be out of pocket for 2 hours, and vice versa. He'll be like, hey, you know what? He'll give me like 10 things to do. And he'll be like, hey, listen, hit me up about 4 hours. I'll be free about 4 or 5 hours later. I'm kind of tied up right now. And when you're in a partnership, you go 24/7 anyways. and you don't worry about the small stuff like that. But anyways, Mike, I know Mike, you got a lot of wisdom about partnerships. I'm gonna let you start talking while I switch to the other side of the
Sure
room here,
thing.
my
Well,
friend.
I love all those points, Matt, of course. And one of the other things that I really uh, that I think brings value into the business from a partnership standpoint is just um, the I would say accountability, and from a standpoint of, this morning, I mean, literally, I woke up this morning and there were like 10 things on my mind that I have to get done. And like two of them should have been done yesterday. And I'm like, yeah, well, we're going to have to talk about that. And I know that, later when we tag in, we'll be like, hey, how come that stuff isn't done? And not in, any sort of mean spirited way, but you know what I'm saying? When you actually have to answer to someone, there
Yeah.
is power in accountability. There doesn't even have to be like, negative things attached to it. Just the fact that I know that we're going to talk about it and I'm going to, answer to the fact that I didn't get them done, that there's a lot of power in that. And there's a lot of opportunity for traction based on that accountability in a partnership. And so I see that as a huge advantage. And of course, you've covered a lot of the things, strengths and weaknesses and complementary things of that nature. And even division of work. I mean, even though we'll hit in any business, you'll hit peaks and valleys of production and sales and different things. And although, for example, let's take Matt and I, we have different strengths and weaknesses, but there may be times that I'm going to have to work in things that he's strong in, and he's going to have to work in things that I'm strong in, just because it has to be a division of labor, especially in a startup environment, right?
Yeah.
Or a new business where, it's not like, we can go out and hire 20 people to handle XYZ details. We have to handle the details. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we're like, hey, you know what? We need all hands on deck. Yeah.
I like what you
So-
said, Mike, about the accountability, and also like, the fact that that helps me stay on track, knowing that you're busting your tail, and you're like sacrificing family time and you haven't slept. It causes me to step up my game and be like, hey, I can't leave them hanging. Like, there's an element of like, don't leave your business partner hanging. And then also, it's sometimes when you're grinding it out and it's 2 a.m. and you're on a deadline and you got to get it done, sometimes it's pretty cool to just shoot a text and be like, hey, how many cups of coffee have you had? And you'll be like, hey, I'm on the floor. I got my headphones on, 3 down so far. You know what I'm saying? There's just kind of there's so much value. I'm actually shocked more people don't turn to partnership, Mike.
Yeah. Every partnership and every business has a different sort of a culture as well. And I think it's important to develop a culture and sort of we're both, athletic. We both play sports and those sort of things. And so, for us, it's like, one of us run 10 wind sprints. The other one's like, that's all you got? What, are you kidding me?
Oh,
I ran 15, right? That's kind of our culture, as far as, so there's a motivation factor as well.
I remember a couple weeks ago, I was like, dude, I just put in a 12-hour day. You're like, that's it? Like, wow, I'm ashamed. I'm
Called you a
shocked.
part-timer, yeah.
Yeah, part-timer. I guess you're working part-time now. That's what you said. But, none of that ever bothers us ever. In fact, it motivates us. I'll be like, okay, all right, I'm going back in for 6 more. Hang tight.
Well, yeah, and understanding that there's no, I know that my partner's fully committed. Right, that he's given all he's got, and when I'm, we're just talking trash back and forth like we would on a ball court or something. So
yeah. Well, and I don't know if we're going to get to some of the other questions on partnerships. I just want to throw one thing in there. Tommy said I work banker hours. Here's the deal.
That's not true.
Yeah, finding a partner, literally a business partner, is probably almost as strategic. I could almost compare it as important as you finding the right spouse. I mean, Mike, you could marry 100 people. I mean, literally, I tell people all the time, look, I could marry 100 people and be happy, but there is the right one that's the perfect fit. You know what I mean? And it's that way in business. There's probably other people I could have easily gone into business with and been successful, but I wholeheartedly believe that it is such, I do believe in the God thing aspect. I do believe in making God your primary partner and letting God, hate to use the word, it's so overused by God as my co-pilot. God's not our co-pilot. He's our pilot. We're just,
Yeah.
I really believe that when you make God the foundation of your business and put God first, and, the Bible says the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. You got to make your business partnership, you got to be prayerful about it, because the right one could cause you to be extremely successful. The wrong one could literally, destroy your chance of success. Mike, there's people that were amazing in business. I mean, successful. That if I'd have gone into partnership with them, my whole entire business, brand, whatever, it would have collapsed. And I know you feel the same way. Your skills can only work, in other words, it's got to be the right fit. So even though we want you to find the right partners, the key word is the right partner.
Right.
So Mike, speak to that. Like, how would somebody know, who would be a right partner for their business venture, man?
That's a great question, and I'm going to just touch on what Mary said here. Mary says she's looking for a partner. Everybody wants to know what she's doing, which is curiosity, and sort of drags her down. And I would say, I understand what you're saying, Mary, but at the same time, I feel like any partner has to really share the vision and the passion for what you're doing. And so if they're not really aware of what you're doing, it's going to be very hard to sort of gauge whether or not they're passionate about it. You don't want to be an 11 on the passion scale about, let's say, health and fitness, and diving into a health and fitness related entrepreneurial venture. You don't want to be an 11 on the passion scale about that and have a partner that's like a 6. I mean, that's not going to work out very well. They're like, yeah, okay, I'm interested in making money. I guess we can do that. That's not going to be. You're going to get a lot of friction in that partnership because your motives are going to be different, right? And so having this similar passions for the business itself, and even the implementation, right? I mean, there needs to be some agreement about the business model, the implementation, and of course the overall direction and vision. So I think those are important. Another, of course, understanding that integrity is probably one of the key, most critical character traits that you're going to look for in anybody that you want to do business with. So that's a couple of things I think that you should look for, Matt.
I believe that. And also, look for somebody that gets you and understands you and understand, Mike, like I said, you might weed through some people to find the right partner, but you've got to get someone that has the same passion, a very similar work ethic, very similar values, and there's got to be a trust, which takes time to develop, and there's got to be good communication. I feel like Mike and I feel like we have good communication because we both feel free to just share whatever we want to share, and if it's something that's kind of tough, we literally both get over it in seconds. Like, okay, I get that, no worries, Like, we don't hold on to stuff. You can't be successful in life when you hold on to stuff for a long period of time. You've got to learn how to let stuff go quick, especially in a business partnership. You can't, there's a lot, like Mike and I are so different in that I'm very expressive in my communication. And sometimes Mike is just, right to the point, and which is okay. That's just his style. And there's been times where he's texted and I've been like, yo, dude, your text is too cut and dry. If I ask him a question, he'll say, yup. And for a minute, I'll be like, dude, is he ticked at me? Like, what, what's the deal? And so I'll even say, hey, I hate the word yep. So Mike's like, okay, yes. He's like,
hey, you're very kind. I like Matt. He's very kind. He's like, I'm very expressive, and Mike is not is the right word, but he gets very nice about it. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Oh, Mike, you make me laugh there, buddy. But no, I feel like we could do a lot of teaching in the future about partnerships because I think it's very needed in the business community.
Yeah, and here's another thing I think is really important is find somebody with a sense of humor. Man, you got to have a sense of humor, especially in business, because stuff's going to get stressful and tough and difficult, and there's going to be relationship issues, and there's going to be financial issues. You're going to have to make tough decisions. You're not going to agree about everything, and God gave us humor for a reason, right?
Absolutely. And that's what's kept us. Like if our lights have been turned off, I cannot tell you the amount of times, and this will happen if you're really like a true entrepreneur, and you're building it from scratch and you've taken big risk. There have been times our lights have been turned off, not because we're irresponsible, but because there's no money to pay the light bill with. Like we put money in everything into, so like there's been times that I'll be like, Mike, my lights got turned off, and he'll text back, LOL, love you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no like, oh, panic. Like, we laugh about it. We're like cracking up. Mike says, dude, they just repoed my car. And I'll be like, that's hysterical. Like, in other words, we're not fazed by any of that because we know the journey.
Not taking it lightly, but I mean, it is what it is. No. Hey, I just got to share this. You want to know how we, when you're an entrepreneur, it means you pretty much never stop thinking about work. You're constantly working. And that's not to say that you're not present with your family when you're with them and you're not present, when you're at church and those sort of things. Right. But literally during this show, I get a text from Matt about business. I must have been talking at the time. I get a text message about, like, seriously, can we wait till the end of the show?
I couldn't because I was thinking, you know what, this is so on my mind, I had to get it out. I didn't know if you'd see it or not. Anyways, that is funny. But yeah, you got to have good sense of humor. You got to be able to laugh. You got to be able to talk about stuff. And you got to have, there's been times Mike and I have said, hey, I need $100. And either one of us, bam, without even second, like literally, like, okay, hold on a second. Hold on, let me see what I can do. And then within seconds, we got each other like that, Yeah. But anyway, so that's good stuff, and it's real life. I mean, one day we'll tell the real stories behind the scenes of. Listen, Paula Deen, her house was foreclosed over 3 times and lost over 2 cars, repossession. Like, you think business is all like yachts and country clubs and sleeping indoor lab. There's a lot of times in business you lose everything because of the risk. There are times you're going to have to take big risk to succeed, and there's going to be times those risks don't work, and that's part of the journey of entrepreneurship. The amount of people that have been massively successful, Seth Godin, who's a multi-millionaire, literally never was able to live past 1 paycheck for 5 years when he was building his business. Never had more than enough money of 1 paycheck for 5 years. So if you can be that patient, it's not comfortable. Like entrepreneurship, if you want comfort, it's not for you, my friends. Trust me. It's not comfortable. It's a lot of risk and a lot of, taking the big leap, and you got to be willing to do it. But anyways, we got some good questions coming in, Mike. So
yes. So what about this question from Liliana? I want to get to her other one about the juice bar because it's intriguing to me. But first of all, she's asking about being bivocational. Can you be an entrepreneur and work a full-time job? And I know in the past shows we've talked about, when to make the transition and so forth. But can you speak to that question just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. There's probably out of 100 entrepreneurs, 80 of them had to work their job until they were able to go full-time in their business. So the answer is yes, you can still work a full-time job, as long as your family and friends are understanding that while you're building the business, you're going to have no free time. In other words, maybe 1 night a week for like 2 hours. I'm not even talking about the whole night. Because literally, if you want that business to go, if you want the business to succeed, you've got to put in the sweat. You've got to put in the times, which means you might get out of work at 5, grab a quick, healthy dinner, and go work on your business till 1, 2 in the morning, and it's not uncommon. It's not. Right. Remember, it's all about seasons. Just be like, I can do anything for 6 months if I know at the end of 6 months it's going to yield a great return. I mean, there's been many times where we've just said, okay, the next 6 months are going to be rough. There's not going to be, we're going to be eating peanut butter and sandwiches, rice, whatever. Like it's next 6 months going to be tight because literally every dime left over we've got to put back in. So yes, you can. That's the question. And I love what Tommy said. That's really good.
Yeah, that's a good example,
Tommy. Because you've had to do that actually. You literally worked a job, I believe, for almost a year your other business before you said, okay, we're burning the boats and we're going in. And hey, you didn't burn the boats and jump into a yacht. You burned the boats and jumped into a a desert? So, anyways, speak to that.
Jumped into the water, I guess. Well, one of the things that, especially if you've never gotten into entrepreneurship and starting a business, a lot of times, especially at the beginning, and I like what you said, Matt, it's not all yachts and 4-hour days and so forth. And a lot of times, especially, people will present a business plan or business idea and they're like, it looks like, oh man, I just, put a few hours in and I'm going to make all this money and it'll build up and all this, and never fall for that, because there's no shortcut. There's no like easy route. There's always going to be work. There's always going to be time that you have to put in. If not, there's either something illegal or it's not going to last. Okay. So, to build a lasting, strong, financially, stable business takes time and it takes effort. So, never underestimate that. But I think that, there's millions of Americans and millions of people across the world that really work a full-time job. They're building a business along the side of that. I've probably,
Is it me or did Mike just lose his audio? Can you hear me? Say yes. Mike lost his audio. Okay. Mike, we lost your audio. I don't know if you can hear me, but we lost your audio. So, give it a test. We lost his audio. He'll be back on. Anyways, very good stuff up to until he lost audio. I missed the rest. So, are you back on there, buddy? All right, he'll work it out. So I want to get to, look back and see who asked another question. Oh, I believe it was Lillian as well. Our church is considering starting a juice bar. What specific person to lead it? Or without a specific person to lead it, how can we support the start of this new adventure outside of financial help? Well, you can't. Till you find out who's going to lead it, that's going to be the first key, because, a lot of times someone that's going to invest in something, the first thing they want to look at is who's leading it. Because your people are your greatest assets. You back, Rev?
I'm back.
I want to give you the opportunity to finish up what you were saying before we go into the juice bar chat.
I'm not really sure I remember what I was saying, because I got derailed by the technology. I don't know where you lost me.
Yeah. I don't either, because, you just started going silent on me, and I was trying to fix you because I'm such a master at technology. I was working on all kinds of systems here to...
Matt was in the C code, debugging it.
That's another thing. When you're in partnership, don't speak in words your partner don't get. Like, when Mike starts saying stuff, I'd be like, dude, I might as well be talking to somebody that's from Japan right now, because this is how much this conversation's making sense to me. He'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot. Anyways, hey, Mike, this is a good question. Considering starting a juice bar, but without a specific person to lead it, how can we support the start of this new adventure outside of financial help? So I guess I was just saying, like, first and foremost, the first priority is to find out who is going to lead the startup, because, that would be the key in finding the right investor. Or, the investor's not going to invest in something that's not like rock solid. Okay, who's going to be managing this? What's going to be your process? So all of that has to be figured out, Lillian, in my opinion, before you start reaching out for financial help, because we've learned that. Mike and I have had to reach out to investors in our startup, My Health 90, and some other things we're doing in the health and fitness world. And, so we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot of pros and cons about investing and how to talk to investors and what not to do and all that good stuff, which we could talk deeper into next Thursday. But Mike, you want to dive into this for a minute? Because we're only got a few minutes left. So you want to go a little bit into her question here?
Yeah, I read the question a little bit differently. And kind of what I was going to talk about is that first of all, I wouldn't consider starting a juice bar without a person to lead it. I think she's saying that there isn't going to be a specific lead, but there has to be. There has to be one person that's at the end of the day accountable for it. There has to be one person that is responsible for everything. And, you know, it will be impossible to start without some sort of startup funding, and I don't know where that comes from. But, you know, we actually started a coffee shop in our local church as a way to raise funds for our guest follow-up program. And you know, I largely funded the start of that out of my own pocket. But at the same time, then we were able to figure out ways to, you know, basically make it profitable enough that, you know, we were able to sell coffee to our people at a you know, less than you would pay at a coffee shop, and at the same time make a little money on it. So I think that that's you know, first of all, you need to have a financial plan. How is it going to work, right? Like, work through the numbers. You got to do the math, right? At the end of the day, business is about two things. It's about sales and it's about math. So you have to get the sales and you have to do the math ahead of time and make sure that it makes sense, because you may be thinking, hey, this is a great idea, and then you get into the numbers and go, you know what? I mean, how many ideas have we had, Matt, where we looked at it and then we started doing the math? We're like, yeah, that ain't going to work, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're literally just we're dealing with a major potential business right now where we're both looking at the numbers and thinking, okay, is this scalable? Is it worth it? I mean, Mike, there's 100 ways we could make money today,
Right.
but you've gotta choose where you can have the most leverage and where you can get the most return and where the numbers are going to work, where you're going to be able to succeed in the margins and not get to a place where you're putting all this energy, you know. For example, I will say this, and then we don't have time today, but maybe next week, Mike, I actually have a cautionary, again, not a negative, because I'm not that way. Hey, when someone tells me a dream, even if it's crazy, I'm going to be the last person to knock a person's dream down, because I've seen too many people come up with crazy ideas and make it. So having said that, I would be cautious about businesses in the church. You know, I'm not saying they don't work. I know they do. You, Mike, you guys have an example there yourself. I'm cautious, and there would be some principles I would share if there was going to be a business within the church, because that potentially, just like businesses and family, among friends and among church, can work. But a lot of times they don't, because values and principles are forfeited because, oh, we're brothers and sisters in Christ. Listen, not in business, you're not. It's business first. You know what I'm saying? In other words, and you know, that's why sometimes family businesses don't work, because, you know, you hire your brother, and then all of a sudden he just doesn't show up one day. And he's like, oh, you know, it's my brother Mike. He'll understand.
The tendency, Matt,
like, you know,
the tendency is to shortcut because it's family or because it's friends. And the reality is you need to be more specific and more explicit about the details rather than shortcutting when it's family and when it's friends. So we tend towards the opposite end of the spectrum that we should when dealing in those sort of relationships mixed with business.
that's so true. Mary sent you to daycare for church families, and they don't like to pay you because you're in the church. And it's so true. I mean, hey, I love church people, believe me, but you church folks have got to get an understanding that just because, you know, a plumber in your church is a plumber doesn't mean that he's going to come plumb you for free. You know, he's still got to feed his family. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's a whole nother story, Mike, we should dive into on the relationship show. And there are times you should not charge. You know, there's certain times, you know, I would and wouldn't charge. You know, if Mike says to me, hey, I want to send 5 juice books to some friends of mine, do you think I'm going to send Mike a bill? No way. I mean, first of all, we're partnership and a lot of stuff anyways, but you get my point? Like, there's just certain times you're not going to charge. Like, you know, if my mom wants a book, I'm not going to charge her. But at the same time, you know, there's certain times where you have to charge. I opened the can of worms, Mike. We'll dive into it on another show. But what were you going to say?
I don't remember it. I'm sure it wasn't important. I forgot. So,
I want to pay people in the church, but because we're church friends, I get poor service. Man, it sounds like the church. Listen, you know what I love? I love the church. I love the church because it's
Hey,
people, and I love people.
it's
But I do love the ridiculous mentalities that a lot of them develop in the name of Christianity.
yeah. Well,
What were you going to say?
it's the same in family too. In any close knit community, whether it's a church or whether it's your family, could be any other even social organization that you're involved in. People will sometimes just have an incorrect assumption about the way that they can handle business transactions. And again, my opinion is that in those situations, you need to be even more exact about the business element. That's been my experience, and I've learned that by making countless errors. Okay, this is experience speaking.
Pain, Mike, not just errors, painful errors, right?
Errors,
In other
yes.
words, it's not just experience. It's experience speaking from a scar.
Yeah.
It's experience speaking from. So, Mike and I do a lot of work in the church. And we charge. We charge for our products and services, and we get blasted for it. I mean, if I put all the emails out, the nasty emails that I've gotten, if I put them out in a book, you would enjoy reading them. The amount of people that have blasted me, I can't believe you charge churches, for training or for speaking. And I'm like, you know what? Business is business. It's the law of fair exchange.
Right.
You don't get mad at a doctor because he sends you a bill. I mean, it's the law of fair exchange. See, when you provide services, you should be rewarded and recompensed for those services. In other words, it's not illegal, it's not wrong, it's not unethical, it's not immoral. At the end of the day, if someone gives you their time, they're giving you their most important, valuable asset. So of course they should be returned or paid or compensated to some way for their time.
Yeah.
Coaching. I've had people like, I can't believe you would charge people to coach them. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm my time. I'm not justifying anything. I'm showing you people that have to do work in the church don't feel guilty because it's the law of fair exchange. I mean, if you put a brand new air conditioning unit in your church, they would have had to hire that from another air conditioning company. So, I'm all about donating. Believe me, I'm all about giving. I'm all about, hey, if you own a company and you want to give to your church, you should. But do it with a great attitude and do it with a heart to give. Don't do it and be like, I ain't charging them because they're too cheap. Don't be like that. If you're going to give, give. If you're not going to give, charge.
Yeah.
And don't feel guilty for either one.
Yeah. And you know what, Mary, that's a great point. Mary says sometimes if people invest in something, it encourages them really to put more effort into seeking the result. And we've actually found that to be true. Like sometimes we'll get better results by charging someone for some training rather than giving it to them, because people just sort of take it for granted. Like, yeah, I got that for free, put it on the shelf, whatever. There's a definite principle there that applies. And I don't really understand. You read Tommy's comment. I don't understand. I mean, sometimes, yeah. And I've read some of the emails that Matt's talking about, and I'm like, what are they trying to say? It's like, hey, if you're so holy, you should get manna direct from God or something. I don't know. Like, what am I supposed to do, right? Like, provide all this stuff and just live in my car?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of almost that's why there's not too many evangelists in the church world today, because, they live at starvation almost. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But, so at the end of the day, guys, I guess we kind of close this show up by saying, be a principled person, be a person that follows principles in life. And be a person that even if someone does something for you for free, give a good tip. Yeah. I really believe, Mike, that you would be more blessed if you take care of people. I really believe that. So don't. Anyways, a lot of good Q&A today. A lot of good feedback from our audience. We've enjoyed it, and Mike and I'll be here every Thursday to talk about business and entrepreneurship. So if you didn't get your question answered, then please be back next Thursday and we'll dive into it. And we love being with you guys. We'll be back next Tuesday for our next show on health and weight loss. So we thank you guys so much for taking time to watch out. You can always watch on the archives. Mike, anything you want to say in closing about anything that we've covered today? We got about 30 seconds left.
No, I just want to say, since this is our last show this week, have a great weekend. Make the very most of it. You know, be present in everything you do, whether it's business or family, or even if you're just chilling and watching a movie, man, be present there with your family.
There you go, Mike. I like that. I take that to myself. All right. Love you guys. God bless. We'll see you all Tuesday at 9:30.
Bye-bye, everyone.